Coming up on STO Nation. What's probably the worst thing that's happened to you since you've been chasing snow? Or do you do anything in regards to vehicle and personnel safety? How do you guys store your skis and snowboards? How do you guys control the water when you get off the slopes? Compared to an SUV or a truck, how does the van compare? And what are the difference and the nuances that people should be aware of? What is the best resource as far as chasing patterns, knowing where to park, how each resort kind of works, things of that nature, just general knowledge. What is the best resource out there to chase snow? We'll start. Welcome to another episode of STO Nation, a production of Park Media. Before I introduce today's guest, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, share, and leave a 5-star review. And if you find this podcast useful in any way and want to pay us the ultimate compliment, head on over to our Patreon page where you can subscribe to be a classic, stealth, or beast mode subscriber. Hey STO Nation, hope everyone is doing well. So this episode started with an idea after watching a bunch of STO owners chase powder on social media this winter. I wanted to know what they know and for them to be able to share their experiences, tips and tricks, and stories with you. The 4 snow bunnies I know were Toby McGraw, Tara Hall, Todd Arnold, and Kaden Phan. These 4 shared a lot, and to be honest, I learned a lot from them. So if you plan on hitting the slopes in your STO, this is a must listen. And a quick disclaimer, if you're watching the YouTube version, Todd and Kaden's internet wasn't the best, so you'll see them drop out and then pop back in once they reconnect a couple times. But with that, please sit back, relax, and welcome the 4 snow bunnies, Toby, Tara, Todd, and Kaden, to the STO Nation family. Welcome to STO Nation, you guys. Thanks for coming on. This is the very first episode where we are strictly focused on you guys, the snow bunnies. So there's a lot of people out there that love going out and chasing the powder. And I see on Instagram and other social media platforms the struggles that you guys have. Like Todd, I see that you disassembled your shower. So I don't know what's going on there. We'll find out. But I mean, I want to find out, everything that you guys experience, good and bad. And of course, if you guys have any tips along the way for other mode owners, please pass it on. So before we move on to that, let's go ahead and do an introduction of everyone. So Tara, go ahead and kick us off.
All right. I'm Tara. I have a 2021 stealth mode that I got this past October. So it's been, 4 months around there. I'm living it full time right now on a mission to hit as many mountains as possible, chasing the snow, chasing the powder. Originally from, I would say California. Well, that was the last place that I lived before I got the van. I've kind of hopped all over, so I was kind of a nomad before I got the van too. So, but California was my last home base.
Cool.
Yeah, and I'm Toby McGraw. So I have a 2021 Classic mode. Have had it since October of 2021. So this is our second ski season with it. We're home based out of Southern California, Los Angeles. I have 2 little boys and my wife that we've hit probably 15 or 16 mountains the last 2 winters. Most routinely go to Mammoth just because it's our closest mountain. So we'll go there, 8 or 10 times a season. We're Icon pass holders, so we're pretty much sticking to the Icon mountains or places that we have access with Icon. So that's me.
Todd Arnold, beast number 29. Got it just before February in 21. 52,000 miles today on it. Been in the snow since December, beginning of December this year, or last year, going into this year. 5-6 months chasing powder and fixing things as I go.
Hi guys, I'm Kaden. I have van number 7 off the production line, so one of the OG owners. I'm from the Bay Area, but home base out of Vegas for the past 16 years. I am full-time, so I've been in the van full-time since I've got it, and occasionally stop at home to kind of switch gear out for different seasons. I snowboard, ski, mountain bike, rock climb, so whatever season is best for the sport, that's what we're packing.
Cool. Well, thanks for the introduction. So I got to start the podcast off with what is going on with your van, Todd? What are you doing?
And to clarify, my van's next to us, and I'm just in Todd's van, kind of assisting.
So, what's going on today? We were in some really cold weather recently, and we froze up. I did make it over to Rixon like a month ago and stopped in. I wanted to do the open that seat up, and I'll show them real quick while we're at it. I wanted to do the split. I seen that Young Wah did a good split, and I like the Y that they put in there. Oh boy, here goes some fun. But
Oh, you got everything
we did the.
disassembled.
Oh yeah, I keep it open so I can access it easier and faster. So like for instance, let me turn it on and let me bust this water out real quick. Let me see if I got a leak. Okay, I might have fixed my leak.
So he's opened the shower there, and this is the Groove Lounge.
So you're chasing a leak then? Is that what's happening?
Well, so I changed out to the fittings from Rixon, which are from
Point those out.
Well, all these plug fittings down here on top of the heater exchange, I made the two come out, and then it splits this one to another Y. So it goes one to the back, one to the side, and one to the access point in the front. I changed out the water lines because the water lines leak from every facet, from everything you can possibly ever put on these things, it seems like. I've seen a lot of people put on, I don't know, you name it. And it's frustrating because it's a nemesis of, I think, everybody that uses it a lot more full time, and they're using the heater. Like I'm running the pump now. I've got hot water circulating that creates water pressure and heat at the elements. So it's expanding those lines. It gets cold. It gets hot. We were in sub 30 degrees, sub zero, 30 minus 30 degrees. It was freaking cold. Everything froze up. Even with everything I've upgraded, all the Havelock wool, everything I could possibly do, run the heater all the time, it froze up, and I was frozen for a week because I was still in sub-zeros at night, so it never got a full day to defrost until 2 days ago, and then it ran, and then I'm like, oh, look, let's find some new water leaks. Because that expansion, I think, is a major thing with all water elements, unless we're doing braided lines through the whole thing or something like that. And that there's a couple braided lines like that's up in here in the fittings for the shower, but not the whole van. So it's a not everybody has it. I don't think everybody gets to the coldest of the cold and then comes back to cold, hot, cold, hot. I have a house in Florida, so I traveled there 3 times last year, and in between that, there was some cold, and then 110 in Salt Lake. So that is hard on a system like that, especially if you're trying to run hot water to a shower and stuff like that. So my problem, and I just so happened to pop this up and like, oh, I've got an hour. Let me just knock this out real quick because I noticed I had a small drip and it was coming from the shower. And I'm like, let me take this off. I said, before I do that, let me just check my down here. I'm like, the second you twist it, it starts leaking. So I'm finding these little pockets of water that I think everybody could have it if you toy with something. And that's what the thing I've done is I've toyed with it. And once you twist it, it opens it up. And so I'm like checking for leaks. It's teetered it. And that's the thing. The thing about our vehicles is that they are ongoing homes on wheels that move, and they're not house plumbing fittings that stay still and never move. So trying to find that perfect element that works is hard for me. I think with Rixon's fittings, I'm trying to think of the name of them. It's Flare It. Flare It are the fittings I've tried out. And then even 2 weeks before I went to Rixon, I tried out different metal fittings that I saw with Talon Size mention about metal fittings on the, the red and blue pipes they put in there. But anyways, that's what I'm toying with today. Water is my nemesis with heating it and expanding the lines. I know some of you guys have also found some, and I've heard other people, and I'm liking this so far, but I just happen to toy with it because I'm like, let me tweak this a little bit, and I haven't learned exactly the perfect setting to push it in tight and then tighten it up. There is because all of them that they did at Rixon, 2 days later, He says, you're going to have to tighten these back up. Sure enough, I reached down there, tightened them back up. That worked. Had to take that back off. I have not even gotten to the rear storage where the water pump is, which froze. And I know I've got a little bit of leaking going on back there. But one tip I do have is that whenever you turn on that pump and you go, let's see if it's leaking, and you turn it on, you hear it run, that means that it's leaked down out of something. Or if you hear it while you're sleeping and you hear that pump go, brrr, you're like, all right, cool. There's some water leaking going on right there. So anyways, I say that with all fun because I don't, and you've mentioned before, I've mentioned you're good and you're bad and you're ugly and everything else like that. I think it's part of the adventure van. I don't like it when it breaks, but I'm like, oh, after I fix it, I'm like, oh, this is a good move. Let's fix this, make this better. And everything that comes up, I want to make it better. I expect Storyteller to make a van that's decent, and then I expand from that. I want to make some things better, so I try to not necessarily break them, but I'm trying to find where I can make things better as I go. I do have a habit of breaking things, though.
So, Toby and Tara, have you experienced anything like what Todd has experienced?
I luckily have not. No. I try to.
So you
not
haven't
break
tinkered
things.
around with it, so it hasn't broken. What's that?
No. I try to not break things. I'm nice to my van. I'm nice. I try to
give it a
care of
season.
Yeah.
You'll get there, Tara. Give it a season.
I know. Yeah, I don't have the miles on it yet that Todd does. So.
Yeah.
Have you guys?
I mean, I've experienced a little. I mean, I just had to replace my. I had to take apart the heater about 3 weeks ago. I mean, you should be cleaning out your filter for your heater every year. And because that didn't happen, I started smoking out the parking lot in Mammoth. And I was just like, oh my God, what is this white smoke? And I've been an owner for a while now. I guess this is something I should have known, but I didn't get delivery like most people. I didn't get the whole walkthrough tour, so I didn't realize I needed to do that. Anyways, I'm a tinkerer.
There's a podcast called STO Nation that covers that. I'm just letting you know.
Yeah, and had I seen that episode, I would have taken, I would have cleaned it before I went out.
I think the problem is you get guests on like Todd that talk too much and they extend it. Next thing you know, it's an hour-long podcast. Ugh.
But I can actually say that if you do like kind of tinkering, it's not that hard. A little messy because you've got the antifreeze and you have to drain that into a container, which I ended up draining it into a water jug so that it was easier to refill. So I just flipped open the spout and held it over the antifreeze compartment underneath the groove lounge, and it was fine. It was dirty as expected and a little hard to take off that filter, but after you know what you're doing, it's easy.
Gotcha. So Toby, this is your second winter in the van, right?
Yes, that's right.
All right. So let's talk about some things that you've experienced, the good and the bad. So what's probably the worst thing that's happened to you since you've been chasing snow?
I mean, we're based in Southern California. We do a lot of warmer weather skiing, but every Christmas, New Year's, we're taking off for 15 days and kind of going wherever we can find powder. And so last winter, we were in Jackson when it was negative 15, negative 20, and we were like traveling through this for like 5 or 7 days. On like day 8, we had a little bit of a freeze up, but it honestly like defrosted 4 hours later. I got 2 little kids. We keep the cabin a little bit warmer, and so maybe that's one of our benefits. And we're also not spending 2 months in a row at sub-zero temps like maybe Todd has. So that's honestly the trickiest thing that we've gotten into. I'd say we got into a minor collision driving up to Big Sky this last winter. We were driving from Snowbird up to Big Sky, had a little minor collision where someone hit us behind us. But besides that, we've had fairly good luck with both the chassis as well as the rest of the components.
Okay. And so when you go to these ski resorts, where do you park? Do you just park at the ski resort?
So every place is different. Some of our favorite camping is at like Mount Bachelor, where you're literally camping in a parking lot that you can walk to the lift the next day. So we've done that. At Schweitzer Mountain, there's also places that you can camp fairly nearby. other places aren't quite as friendly to be able to do that. So, if when we're going to Deer Valley or we're going to Snowbird, a lot of times we're staying, there's a great RV park in Park City that's really accessible, easy to get to Park City Mountain or get up to Deer Valley. And we are the people that are waking up at 5 a.m. and driving in to get like the best parking spot. So typically what will happen is, we're sleeping, waking up the kids, we're fixing the Groove Lounge, we're getting to, when we're staying in Mammoth, a lot of times if we can't park out in the National Forest land, if we're staying at Mammoth RV Park there, we'll get up at 5 a.m. to get to the mill to get, the best parking that we can get. And then a lot of times we're just, at 7:30, we're cooking up bacon and eggs. We have our breakfast, and then we're getting the kids and ourselves ready and, getting first tracks right when the lifts are opening. So we do a little bit of everything. We try to stay on mountain when we can, but, not every mountain is going to allow that. So a lot of times we're RV parks that we're, hopefully within a 10 to 20 minute drive to the mountain.
Well, when you have to boondock, isn't that kind of interesting as far as like trying to find a place where I mean, there's a lot of snow, right? So you got to use four-wheel drive, and I assume you have snow tires or some type of tractional tires, maybe snow chains.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, haven't gotten to like if there's a significant amount of snow, like we won't boondock. And so usually that's going to be earlier season or after stuff has been either plowed down or has been kind of stamped down enough to where it's stable. And so, I mean, I still have the base suspension, base tires, everything on the classic mode. And sometimes, when you're getting out to the scenic loop off of Mammoth, there's a bunch of places that are very easy turnoffs right off of that little main area. And there's just a ton of options for boondocking out there. So we've never gotten to a situation that we're going miles and miles off of unpaved or unplowed roads.
Tara, so this is your first winter, and
Yep.
you've only been full time for, I think you said, about 4 months.
Yeah.
So, and you've been chasing powder. So, what is your experience with driving in the snow and having to deal with like parking and stuff like what Toby just said?
I kind of have a similar experience, or I've only used, I mean, the stock tires that come on the Stealth. I don't know if I know the Beast, I think, probably has beefier tires, but do the Stealth and Classic have the same tires like the KO2s?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
They
they
do?
all come
Okay.
with them. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm just running on the KO2s, and I mean, I have no problem with those. Those handle like a champ in the snow. I've also lived in like small mountain towns. Like I lived in Colorado for years. I lived in Breck, and I lived at like 11,000 feet, so where I would get a foot and a half of snow overnight, like consistently. And so I've pretty experienced driving in snow, so I kind of know how to, maneuver this 9,000-pound behemoth. But mostly it's been, of course, and I'm chasing powder, which means actually today was the first day I think I've actually found powder, because all season it's been pretty dry. So a lot of the towns that we've been in, I mean, there's not even a speck of snow on the ground. It's been dry pavement. And I've just been either, if the resorts let you park in the parking lots, I'll park there. Like I'm parked at a resort right now at Brundage. Like the lift is like back there. And if not, then like I'll usually just like stealth camp somewhere around town, like within like 10, 15 minutes to the resort.
Like in the city stealth camp?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, like we'd like in Park City and in Mammoth, we did the scenic loop like Toby did, and we parked around town in a couple of different spots, and Park City a couple of different spots, and where else have I been? I've also been in Salt Lake and Boise. Actually, when I'm going through cities, I usually stay at the Crack, like good old Cracker Barrel, because
Yeah.
they're nice. But
Good old reliable.
yeah,
Chad and Paul Cracker.
They love the
Yeah.
Cracker Barrel.
So, Todd, your turn. What are your experiences?
Well, as mentioned, I don't know this for sure. I'm not the pro at it. I just go it as I go. But it mentioned about the tires, and I noticed that I thought I saw at Tara's tires. I was looking at them the other day, and I don't think they're the 3-peak tires, and I think that's the next
They
level.
are.
And I know that they're different size. Yours are 3-peak as well. So
Yeah.
I thought it was that or somebody else's I looked at that was this, maybe didn't have the 3-peak, and it's that different destination. That's the one that gives it a little more beef for the snow or whatever. And I think I don't know, Toby, do yours say 3-peak on them as well?
Yeah.
They do. Okay. So I know that was a designation that they allow you to. When I asked one of the forest rangers one day, and they said, yeah, that's important to have, so that when it says
What
chains
can you
required.
explain that for those that don't know what you're talking about? What is a 3-peak?
So when you look up tires and stuff like that, they'll say that there's certain certifications. The 3-peak is what when you're traveling through streets that say chains required or have chains with you, the 3-peak tires that have the designation on the side of the tire, it says 3-peak. I think it says 3-peak, something like that. That is the designation that will say, okay, as long as you have that in your tires, it qualifies for you not to have chains on it. And when I asked one of the forest rangers, they said should cover all through most states. They don't know of any states that doesn't, for the most part. Then again, you get into a mess of a mess and you're 12 inches of snow and it turns to ice. I'm sure chains will be better. But the problem I've also seen with putting chains on is there's not much clearance that you end up dragging fenders. They already cut the fenders on the Beast to make it clear for the tires. I know I've had to cut it when I put my cut the fenders out when I put my winch on the front with the bumper, and also when I put more suspension on mine recently, it started rubbing more. So there's definitely not much room for chains. I don't think I would. If it comes to that, I better find another alternative to get through that road. Um, Trying to speak to that part of the tires part. As far as the stealth camping and camping and stuff like that, when we was with Tara and a few of our buddies when we were at Mammoth, it worked out good. Some of them, they say no overnight parking. A lot of them say no overnight parking, and there's people parking all over the place. To yesterday, 2 days ago, whatever it was, we were at, I can't keep up anymore.
Well, last
Big
night-
Sky, also known as Big Rock, because it's nothing but rocks out there right now. Levinsky is one of the parking lots, and you just got to move your vehicle every 3 days, but you park right where the shuttle comes through. Thing is, I think I've noticed, and that's what I'm noticing, bigger issues with freezing up is that I'm parking on top of a sheet of snow already. So that cold, because there's no insulation underneath the vehicle, and the pump sits right there. So I put more havoc there. I thought I was going to make it through this winter. I didn't. It froze up again on me, but I think it's because I still have a leak back there and it's creating frozen water. But that's where I think a lot of cold temperatures come through with putting the flooring down that some people offer has helped me with insulation on the flooring, but it doesn't protect the pipes that are sitting right there. I think that's where I've noticed a lot of freezes coming through. And parking on the Levinsky lot, like we were talking about, was one that I did at Big Sky. And we were there for a couple of weeks in that cold temperature coming up and around you, and then no sunlight and never getting above 5 degrees or something like that. And plus with the wind chill, it just makes it colder. And I think that's where I've found the freezing part. So I like where Toby said he sometimes goes to, RV lots. Well, that's going to be warmer. It's going to be on a pad, not on snow. That's probably helpful. But then I'm trying to be right up in it as much as I can. And like when we were with Tara, we would do a pull off. It was a sheet of snow, and then we'd in the morning do the same thing Toby's talking about. Let's go up in Mammoth on the mill. What a great place! I mean, that's like the jam. That's the favorite so far because you pull right up, and the lift's there. I'm pulling out the music, eggs and bacon. Let's rock and roll and have breakfast and keep cruising. I think that's pretty awesome to do. Is be a ski and ski out in your vehicle, because ski and ski out lodges are stupid expensive, but when you're doing it in a van, definitely helps.
How much does parking usually cost?
It's free where we've been going, because I like to pull off the parking lots that are free, even if it's shuttle over. So the one at Mammoth, matter of fact, at the mill, that's free parking, but you got to beat everybody there. So if it's a pal day or a good weekend, get there early. Like Toby, I ran another guy in California. He's like, I come down here from the valley or from the bay or whatever for the weekends, and it's it. Toby knows it. He knows everybody from the bay. Like, I'm up from the bay, and they love to come in there, and that's a thing. There's another beast I ran into, Snow Beast or something like that does it, pulling up for the weekend, and they're gonna beat the traffic, get up, whether you wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, just get first parking space or whatever, and then go back to sleep and then come back up, because you got to move for the plows is what they're usually doing, but they're always going to say signs that say no parking. You're going to get that knock. It's really random, and it's a good thing to mention, Younghwa, is about how hard it is to find these camping spots on an exclusive place, because you talk about parking and paying. Like today, the kick here at Jackson Hole was we parked it a lot far away and it take a shuttle in. But with our kicker was we found out there was a little place at Jackson Hole. If you show up with 3 people in your vehicle,
Two.
it's 2 people.
Two plus, yeah.
Why did we drag you along? We could have
I
left
don't
you
know.
back. Sorry.
You could have. I mean,
So
that was your
you
fault.
pull up with 2 people and you show that and they give you a voucher. It pays for it's free parking to pull up at Jackson. And then it's a small shuttle where you can walk 100 yards. So you just find those little tricks, you know. And the cool thing I think it comes from is the van life people that pull up to these places, talk to other van lifers. They are digging the rig, we're digging their rig, and you're just asking like, hey, where do you guys park? Where do you guys camp? And that's the coolest thing about van life, I think, is that it's the people you meet down the road. Isn't what you're driving. I got Phil Billy over here in a truck that has wood built on the side of it, and he's doing every place I am. He doesn't have water leaks. He doesn't have electrical issues or anything out because he didn't have any. He's got a sleeping bag. It's so simple, but he can go the same places we do. It's pretty interesting.
So, Kaden, do you have anything to add to that?
As far as parking, yeah, I mean, I would say
just from your experiences of what we've talked about.
I pretty much meet people in the parking lot and yeah, they're digging the rig. But I'm super social. So I think for the people who are more social, it's easier to get tips and tricks like that. If you're not, I will stealth camp at hotels. I'll park at truck stops. You just kind of close up shop, turn, your lights down, put your windows covers on. I just kind of try to be minimal if I'm staying somewhere I'm not supposed to be. Sometimes I'll look at houses that are for sale, and if there is, I'll just kind of park right there. These are just tricks
in front of houses that are for sale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because no one's there. Can you
explain the logic behind that?
Because no one's there. No one's gonna say anything. I've also
always nobody's at home for sale.
No, I mean, it just depends on the day. It depends on what city I'm at. There are some cities like San Francisco. I'll just go to the richest neighborhood and just, I mean, that's what Youngwa and I did when we were,
that's
there.
What I taught
was like, yeah. And I mean, I like to park in neighborhoods that are a little bit more expensive because I feel a little bit more safe. Also, we kind of fit in. The rigs are really nice. They're not janky looking, old RVs that are broken down that someone's gonna call on you for. So that's really helped me, and I've been doing this for a long time.
So I'm curious, what is the worst thing that's happened to you? I mean, not on the lift and breaking a leg or something like that, but van related or driving. Toby, what's the worst thing that's happened to you?
So nothing too serious. We were parked in Deer Valley this winter, and so we pulled up early in the morning. It was 6:00 or something, and there was a beast that was sitting there. It's oh, it'd be really cool to park next to the beast, and there's a rebel on the other side of that. So got all these cool pictures. Anyway, we're kind of getting tucked in for the morning before we have a few hours before the lift open. So when I put my window shades into my driver's side door, I always kind of open the door and then close it because it just secures it a little bit better. I open the door, wind catches it, smashes into the beast next to me and busts the mirror.
Oh man.
And it was just, and I looked and I'm did I hit that or not? And it was and I wasn't, because you couldn't really tell. And sure enough, she comes next door and she's also from Southern California, beautiful rig. And I busted that. Fortunately, she was able to fix it the next week. I sent her the cash and it was cool, but I just felt so guilty for destroying that beautiful, I didn't destroy the rig, but breaking the mirror on that. So yeah, it's probably the worst thing that I've had.
Was she a little lenient because you were a storyteller owner?
Yeah, she was totally cool about it. She's no big deal. And you could, it was just the turn signal part on the underneath side. So it wasn't the mirror itself. The mirror is intact. It was just the bottom part of that plastic casing. So, it was, $500 or $600 or whatever it was. It wasn't a great way to spend that money, but it is what it is. So that's probably that. And so the wind, I think, is one thing to keep in mind. The other kind of funny story with the wind, we were skiing with a family that skis with us. And so we were at Mammoth, we were at the mill, and I kind of had my rear doors just open 90 degrees. and she's like walking up to the back of our rig. Wind caught it and swung that door and just like hit her right as she was walking
Oh no.
up. Stunned her slightly. It wasn't like too bad, so I have like a little dent in the end of my door. That was probably my first like real like collision or dent, but it gives the van character. So yeah. So sorry to Jen for doing that.
Well, that doesn't sound too bad. So,
No,
at least you didn't like fall off a cliff driving because it was icy outside or something.
no. Fortunately, none of that.
What about you, Tara? What's the worst thing so far that you've experienced chasing the powder?
Meeting Todd. No.
She's gonna say knock on wood, nothing. She's gonna say, oh, I thought that was the best thing.
Tara's looking
it depends on the day. Yeah, knock on wood. I don't really think I've had anything major happen with the van yet. I've had like little things kind of go wrong, but they've been quick fixes.
Like what?
Thanks to the Facebook group. Like the awning lights wouldn't turn off, so I had to like get the new switch thing. Out like all the outlets went out one day. Learned that there's like I just tripped one of the breakers, so did that, and I've done like a couple of little replacements like that. I don't even remember, but they've been so minor that it's taken like 15-20 minutes out of the day. Well, the biggest, maybe not van related, but van living related, my dog, who's sitting right next to me, my senior dog, has decided to wet the bed not once but twice during the middle of the night. Luckily, just her bed's on my bed, and she's like completely unaware. Like she's just like sleeping, and I wake up in the morning and it's all wet. So van life reality, you got to go find a laundromat, kill your adventure plans for the morning or the day, and go do your chores.
Yeah,
And
I know that experience.
it's not all sunshine and roses.
Oh yeah, I mean Kimchi has had some of his own bathroom tragedies in a
Yeah.
van. So yeah.
Oh wait, and actually, Younghwa, one of mine was when we were in Baja, and I got the food poisoning, and wound up, and
Man,
I
that was
passed
bad.
out, and I passed out in the van into like the little stairwell next to the door.
And that was like right after I checked up on you, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean it was like 2 minutes after like you
Yeah.
left, I think. Like you were coming back, and
Yeah,
that was gnarly.
insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, we first met in Baja, and she got super sick within 2, maybe 3 days into it or something like that.
I think it was like 3 days in. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Got
we
like
had 2 RNs and not a paramedic, but a first responder, and everyone was like, if you get more sick within like 2 hours, we have to like take you to the ER. And I'm like, we're in the middle of Mexico. Like, first of all, where's an ER?
So gnarly.
Second of all, like, is that ER even legitimate or not legitimate, but legitimate in regards to like being able to take care of you? But yeah, you scared everyone. I had everyone turn their radios on in case you got sicker. So you just holler on the radio, be like, I'm sick. And then we'd all flood to your van. But yeah, that was pretty, that was pretty crazy. I'm glad you're good. Oh,
yeah.
But anyways, okay, well, that sounds like a pretty decent deal in regards to like not having any major issues. Knock on wood. I obviously no one wishes you anything bad, but maybe that's because you haven't been tinkering around with your van. I don't know.
Maybe. I only have like 10,000 miles, so I've got quite a few miles to go before I hit Todd's level.
Don't rush.
All right, Todd and Kaden. So Todd, other than your plumbing issue, what's the worst thing that's happened?
I don't think of them as the worst. I mean, there's some, like, it could be as simple as a rattling noise that just bugs the crap out of me, that I will, it becomes like my one focus. And until I get it knocked out, it frustrates me a little bit. But and it's an adventure van, and the adventure sometimes means curing that noise. And I don't mean to sound like the spokesperson for Storyteller, but it is, and I always say this, it's an overglorified tent on wheels that has a lot of accessories. And when those accessories go out, it's your next adventure to fix it. I've had all of them, everything there is. I don't want to say to go wrong. It's just things happen, and not always because I tinker with them. The waters, I never would have tinkered with it until I found a leak and the heating didn't work. The heating pump went out, or I got stuck and I didn't know how to turn on or deactivate the traction control, and I'm stuck in Florida in my own home town, and I'm showing off that I can go through that stuff right past that Toyota, and I get stuck, and I'm going, Mercedes, turn off traction controls because system disactivated. And I'm like, all right, why aren't the tires spinning? And that was like, oh, I'm freaking out. And I had to get towed out, pulled out with a winch from a side by side, 1,000-pound side by side pulls out a 10,000-pound van. I was amazed. And from then, of course, I got a winch and a bumper. And I'm like, I'm never going to go in that direction again without knowing how to turn my traction control off. So, I mean, I don't think of it, any of them as the worst things, young law. I think there's like things that have happened that became my next level of make this an adventure van, and let me go figure out how we're going to cure this. Sure, I had the pump go out on my heater pump there. Sure, I've had five times, I think I'm 5 or 6 times I've redone the plumbing and tried it. I don't say completely, just let's put new fitting. Let's try this new fitting. And it wasn't my choice. Hell, I drive until it breaks. And then if it breaks, I'm like, all right, now how do we fix this? And where am I going to my
I
nearest
gotta say,
place?
for the audience that have never met you and don't know who you are, in full disclosure, you drive your van like the hardest I've ever seen anyone drive a van, like, or any vehicle, to be honest. It's like, what's that race where you like purposely crash into other people? You know what I'm
Jousting?
talking about?
Or no, the
No,
derby
no, no.
races.
Yeah, the Derby races. You remind me, that might be your new nickname, Derby Todd.
Derby Todd.
But
No, it should be
yeah,
Todd
no,
Arnold.
but I just I want to
All
clarify
fairness.
though is that you do drive your van hard. So if you drive your van normal, maybe, you know, the problems may or may not be there. I don't know, speculations, causation, correlation, whatever. I'm just saying, but
You're a rapper now.
I
All
don't
right.
know.
Well, I will
You
say
got to
that
say
one
I have a
time we
point.
did go, when we went up to 20 Warner, and there's 10 vans at the bottom, and Tony takes his G-Wagon up the side of the mountain. I'm like, and he gets on the radio and goes, all right, Todd, it's your turn. He didn't say, hey, Chad, Paul, Youngwall, anybody else. He calls me out. So I'm not going to let him call me out. I sent it. Full send. And then it started going backwards. And so I wrote it backwards. So I tried. I believe find your limits. When you reach your limit and you go the other direction, can't go past there.
Yeah. Kaden, so what about you? What's the worst thing that's happened to you chasing powder?
So I've been a solo female traveler for a really long time. I think I'm used to being by myself and also really good at being in groups and traveling with people. But um, I had somebody try to break into the back of my boxes. So I have gearboxes on the back of the rig. Typically, when I park, I try to look at my surroundings. I always try to back in so that in case of an emergency, I can turn the rig on, pull out, and escape. But this guy did not know that I was in the rig. Our windows are so tinted that he just couldn't see me. And I had just got out of the shower, kind of just peeking around, just making sure my surroundings are good. And I mean, I am backed in against trees. There's no way you're getting into those boxes, even if you tried. But he did try. And, you feel him like rattling the back of the boxes. And I just called the cops. They showed up immediately because the cop was one right around the corner, and two, when you call the cops in that type of situation, it is like a active break-in. So they were there right away. The guy tried to blame it on his dog jumping on the boxes, and that's what I heard the noise. And I was like, no, there's no way your little poodle, your Maltese, is jumping onto those boxes, rattling the doors. Anyways, I was safe. It's fine. But that's why I put on the Facebook forum, kind of asking everyone else what they did for their safety measures. I won't disclose what I have in my van, but I think that I'm geared up enough to feel safe myself. So at any given time, I have hidden things where I can keep myself safe. That would be one. I can say having van number 7 off the production line as far as the storyteller side. Everything has worked great. I've had normal problems that I think people would run into owning a rig this long. I'm not here purposely breaking things, but we have a house that is on wheels and constantly moving. Things are bound to break. Like right now, my van is in limp mode. So for people who don't know what that is, it's when your van isn't going as fast as you want it to go when you step on the pedal. And so right now I'm topping out at 60 miles an hour, but I'll go to a
How
dealership.
does that help or hurt you when you're going on, up a mountain chasing powder?
Oh, I was doing 20 miles an hour up
Mm.
the mountain in certain parts. Right now my van is very emotional. It just has its moments when it just wants to act up and not. But our next stop is where we'll be heading to Warner Vans in Utah, getting that fixed. But I think the altitude may have something to do with it. Sometimes it might be some EGR code. I mean, it has nothing to do with Storyteller. It's definitely a Mercedes issue, but it's normal. You have to get it
But as
fixed. We're
far
in
as
our
like
rigs
driving
full time.
in icy conditions and snow, I mean, is that more dangerous with being in limp mode?
More dangerous? I don't think so, because you want to drive slower. I've had,
Mm-hmm.
a couple close calls where there's black ice, and I mean, we are driving 10,000-pound rigs. We are heavy. Think about being,
Well, I mean, that's
fully
what I'm
filled with
saying though.
your
Like
diesel water.
when you're going up a mountain and you can only go 20 miles an hour, eventually with icy conditions, I feel like you would kind of do a Todd and slide back and be
I haven't had
reverse
that
send
feeling
it.
about sliding back yet, but I think about the trucks that I'm passing when I'm going through, steep grades, and the trucks are just going slow. They just cannot go faster than that speed. And what do we do when we're in vehicles going around trucks? We just go around them. Their hazards are on, my hazards are on. I also installed a light bar on the back because my boxes kind of cover the rear tail, the blinking lights on the side if you are very close to me. So I wanted to make sure I had every safety measure on the back of the rig. So I installed that long bar
Okay.
that is
Yeah.
attached to the step. So it's there.
Okay.
If I want to turn right, you'll know.
Okay. So, since I have 3 out of 4 guests that are full time, and Toby, you spend weeks at a time on the road, so you can chirp in with your suggestions and tips in regards to vehicle safety and personnel safety. So, Toby, what do you do, or do you do anything in regards to vehicle and personnel safety?
Yeah, I mean, similar similar story here. Like, I think I'm prepared in the event that something bad would happen. But to me, it's just all about making sure that we're parking as safe as a place as possible. Sometimes that means it's a little bit more well lit and maybe perhaps a bit louder. A lot of times we're staying at truck stops or rest areas. We're trying to just find the more well lit part of it. And like honestly, given like the thickness of the Havelock wool insulation, like it really does a great job containing the sound, as most of you know. And so, yeah, we're trying to be in more visible places for the most part. There's only been a couple of times where I'm parked in somewhere that's a little hairier that I might be keeping my protection a little bit closer to me, as I sleep at night. But more than anything, it's just making sure that we understand, where we are. And it's kind of something where we live in Los Angeles. We have plenty of crime around where we are on a day-to-day basis. So it's about being smart. Honestly, the only challenge or trouble I've ever had was in my own driveway. I had my bikes on my bike rack. They got stolen one night because we got home late from a trip. I didn't take my bikes off, and so someone came and clipped the locks and
Oh
stole our
wow.
bikes. And so, fortunately, they didn't steal the kids' bikes, just my wife and I's. So I had to only buy 2 instead of 4 new bikes. But it's just those types of things you just have to be aware of, and do your best to park in areas that are a little bit more visible.
Gotcha. Those are all good tips. Tara, do you have any good tips?
Um, I would just second Toby. I think just being smart. I kind of follow, if I have a gut feeling that if I pull in some place and it's a little sketch or like something seems a little off, then, I move on down the road, go find a new spot. Because I'm a solo female traveling. I have my dog, who's not really a guard dog. I mean, let's be honest. I had a couple of like mechanics in here one day, and they would go in like to start my car and pull it in the bay. And I'm like, oh, did my dog bark at you? And they're like, I didn't even know there was a dog in the van. And I'm like, okay, great. I'm like, somebody can just come steal my van. And Aspen's like, hey, where are we going? Where are we going today?
That's funny.
So she's not much security. But then I have, I have a baseball bat under my pillows. I have pepper spray. I have bear spray. I have all my kitchen knives.
Have you ever felt unsafe at all?
No.
No? Okay.
Not really, no. And kind of like Toby said, I mean, I feel safer in the van than half of the cities that I've lived in. I mean, just because, and everybody's like, oh, like, be careful when you're traveling because, there's crazies out there. And I'm like, there's crazies everywhere. Like, it all comes down to just making smart decisions and being aware of your surroundings and, following your gut.
Gotcha. Okay, Todd, you are the only single male full-time van person. It's a little bit different because you're obviously a male, right? And so I feel just, from this biased perspective is that males don't have to be as cautious, but maybe I'm wrong. I mean, what do you think? How do you protect
Yeah,
yourself? Well, I know how you protect yourself, but
women hit on me all the time, and it's very scary. I try to give that ugly look. I grow my beard out longer. That's the kind of protection I try to use? Not that one? Okay. The other one. Okay, I gotcha. So I heard some of you say in well-lit places, I like truck stops because they're there. When I'm on the go, it's quick and stop. If I have the time to make a stop where it's scenic and I'm going to wake up to a mountainside away, I like it when I'm away from everything. I have a USB fan that I'll run to get that ambient noise to knock down the sound when I'm at truck stops and stuff like that. If the AC isn't running or the heater's not running constantly, but the heater usually catches up unless it's sub-zero. So I like that noise. If I'm in a place that I like to be BLM or something like that, or off the truck stop, behind the truck stop, miles away, or I found a BLM service road actually that was off behind us truck stop, and I started like, all right, cool. If I hear a noise in the bump in the night, then that means I have a problem. I would turn on all my lights. And I don't want to turn the interior lights. I turn on the exterior lights because the beast has a lot of those exterior lights, and I'd brighten the place up. And then, worst come to worst, I would sound off my horn. There's other measures. Some people do carry. I do happen to be a federally licensed plate person that can carry some things more, but I would protect myself in that extreme if it had to go that route. But no one ever wants to do that. So I think of deterrent things would be if I'm away from something, something goes bumping in the night, I'm turning on the lights all around the vehicle. Often if I'm in a parking lot with other vehicles, I'll leave my outside light on so I can see if there's something around there. But I'm kind of like a light sleeper, so I'd hear that noise. But that depends. There again, I go back to the theory of if I'm in a place that I don't want to hear any noise unless it's something bad, I would think I would want zero noise inside the vehicle so I could hear things. Because usually when you're sleeping. But I also think about safety measures of when I'm out for the day, snowboarding, because like his bike gets stolen in his own driveway. I hear that very often, and it deters me from wanting to carry because they're snipping locks. Another buddy in a Rebel that they snipped my locks off of his bike. I don't put things outside without locks, even though they can cut locks. It is a deterrent. Like my snowboards are sitting up top on a locked piece, but man, I'm going to hear them if they're there. But things when I'm walking away from the vehicle, like snowboarding for the day, I actually try to put some of my roll-off down and covers over the window and keep the heat in for one. But also people can't tell if I'm in the vehicle. They hear the heater running. That might deter them from wanting to knock on, mess with my vehicle because I'm sleeping. Because I've had to knock first time right here at this darn Jackson Hole. Okay, I was employee parking. I was trying to be slick. We're living our best life, and we're trying to get. I finally got that knock in the morning, and I ignored him because my windows are all covered. He could have thought I was snowboarding. He was really knocking hard, and I'm like, all right, I'm paying some attention. It was security, and I kind of peeked out. Like, yes, may I help you? I'm going to call the cops. All right, cool. I'll move. But I think about not only when you're sleeping, because you're in the vehicle, you can protect your own vehicle, but also on the way from the vehicle is an important time to think about what can I do to deter people thinking I'm in the vehicle, closing it up, using those roll-offs and stuff like that to deter people
All right.
from messing with the vehicle.
Oh, those are all great tips. Thank you. So, my next question, and you kind of led into it, is how do you guys store your skis and snowboards? Kaden, let's go ahead and start with you.
I store mine on the top, and I strategically did that because when you climb on the ladder, there's no stealth climbing on the ladder, not feeling someone on the side of your rig. I also did that because if someone's looking at my rig, my van has my name on the side of it. Most likely that's not Kaden Phan. I have a very Asian last name. So most likely the person, well, I can't say most likely. Anyone can steal something at any given time. But it also would maybe questions might pop up if, Kaden Phan's
You're
not up
saying
there.
Asians don't snowboard or ski? Is that what you're saying?
She's so racist, I swear.
God, why did the race have to come in? I'm just saying, like, my name is on the back of the rig, and it's an Asian last name. So if somebody is on top of the rig who is not Asian, it might possibly make someone think twice to be like, oh, let me just like look up the Instagram. Like, let me just. You never know. Like, I had people message me all of the time, and just it's off topic, but I mean, like,
Well, what
yesterday,
about can you see your do you snowboard or ski, first of all?
both.
Okay, so can you see your skis and snowboard on top? Unless you're like,
Yes,
far away. Like if you're like in a
you can see them.
restaurant parking lot and you're coming out of the, main entrance and you're walking to your van, can you see your stuff?
My skis are on the or on the driver's side. Todd has his mounts on the passenger side. So Todd's are a little bit more hidden because you have that awning up there. Mine are a little bit more visible because there's no awning to cover it.
Okay, so you don't have them in a case or anything. It's just like you just strap them down with
They're
what?
two parallel mounts, and then the skis just go right
Oh, okay.
across, and then the mounts
Okay.
clip down. If you're gonna steal something, I always try to put myself in that person's shoes, right? Like, I used to not have any money at one point, and you're trying to, like, I'm trying to think about, like, what would I do to get something that I can't afford. You really have to think like the criminal. I'm like, if I really wanted those skis, I'm going to take them. You scope out the rig. There was one time that I was parked in a Walmart parking lot, and my rig was getting scoped out. It had a motorcycle on off the back, and I was just like, your heart rate just starts going up, and you're just like, I need to get out of here. So if you can start your engine and go, this is why I always back in. You go, but you do try to prevent anything from being on the outside. Everything is kind of like locked up, right? Like, if I have bikes, my bikes are inside. They're not hanging off the back. You have to actually like bust the lock to get it. You have to work for your prize. So, and you can't see what the prize is. And I pretty much feel sorry for anyone who's gonna bust into my box. I have a manicure set back there, so I don't know. Good luck.
And a bomb too? A tripwire? No, I'm just joking.
I have like the Fabuloso liquid that you pour in the toilet. I've got things that you don't want that's normally not in a
Actually, I
box that's
kind of
back
do want
there.
that, so maybe I'll be breaking in.
Maybe
I'm just joking.
there's transmission fluid, oil, extra oil back there.
That all
Things
sounds like
that
gold to me.
yeah, to you because it would be van specific to you, but to someone else breaking in, they're gonna be like, "What is all this stuff?" So, store the
So
things that you don't care about in your box.
gotcha. Thanks for the tip. So Toby, what about you? How do you well, first of all, do you ski or snowboard or a combination? Because I know you
Ski.
have a family of
Yeah,
4.
so
Okay.
yeah, we're four skiers. So I have a Thule snowpack that's similar setup to as she was describing. It's on the driver's side. I like it just because I can go, two or three steps up and be able to reach everything. Usually I have, one of my boys that are at the bottom that I'm handing the skis down to. The way that the landscape is set up on the 2021s, you know, with the vent fan right in the middle instead of being offset on the newer ones, which I'm very envious of. You kind of have to be careful with my placement. Now, fortunately, I have two kid skis, and so they fit between the air conditioning unit and the vent fan, so I can still raise the fan. And then the two longer skis are kind of offset, so they'll cover part of the solar panel on the back, but then plenty of space on the front. And so, yeah, it locks down. We've never had any issues with that.
Okay, well, that's good. And Tara, what about you?
I've got the roof rack as well, so my board goes up top. But before I
Gotcha.
got the board, though, I kind of jerry-rigged a setup. I did a little bungee cord underneath the bed system to like hold it underneath, but then I realized after the first day of riding, I was like, wait, I don't want to put my wet snowboard underneath my bed. So then I just put it actually in the passenger seat, which I can do because, you know, it's just me. So then it just, you know, dripped and drained into like the floorboard up front, which I didn't care about. Well, like a month ago or something, I got to put up a roof rack up there. So it's a lot easier, out of the way.
So
Yeah,
I've
and
noticed that none of you guys. Oh, go ahead, Toby.
I was going to say, I will say, like, that space underneath the Murphy bed is just amazing for storing stuff like this. And so we have bungees on both sides. Like on one side, it's like window coverings. But what we've done is, you know, so we have 4 pairs of ski boots. They're going in a big plastic tote. Above it, we have bungees to where I can put my pants and jackets and things like that. So at the end of the day, I'm putting all the wet stuff. It's all kind of going down into this large open crate that we can then drain in the morning when all the snow and ice melts. And so it's just an awesome amount of space. There's holes everywhere you can drop those bungees in. It's just tremendous.
Yeah, that was my next question. Thanks, Toby. Was how do you guys control the water when you get off the slopes? Because I mean, you have your boots. I understand that most, you guys store your skis on top, which eliminates that, but you still have your outfit, your boots, stuff like that. So how do you control the water situation? Todd,
Make
we'll start
people
with you.
clean their stuff. Make people clean their stuff out before they get in. So I picked up my nephew 2 weeks ago in Big Sky and brought him in and out, and then stayed for another couple days to pick up five dudes. My friends back from Florida flew out to come see me and ride out here. We are in a ride, so I'm a nitpicker. Like, hey, clean your stuff off, and I'll pull over to a spot that's more concrete, not snow, and make them shake their crap off. Because I'm telling them, like, hey, bro, you're not. I usually leave my bed down 100% of the time, so they're going to put their 4 or 5 boards up on my bed or skis. And so when that came to it, I'm making them stack them and stand and hold them still right here. And the groove lounge is down for the seats for everybody and stack it tight and then that kind of thing. I will say, though, when I have that wet board, there's also Kaden and I think we had 4 or 5 skis boards in the shower and let it stand up there to let it drain down a little bit there. That worked out pretty good. But then you run out of space for seating, so we have the people. So they're standing like you're in a shuttle going back and forth. And I know we're talking about that, and you asked something else that we were leading to something else. But again, your question?
How do you control the water situation when you get off the slopes?
Well, I think I covered that. The other side of that is, so I do put my board up. I don't always go upstairs, and I do put mine on the right side because I like to be able to climb up there and move things around. Like I had a single board. They could have slipped that out if they had any common sense to pull that board, but give me an excuse to get another one. But the bindings can also be taken off. So that's just 4 screws on a snowboard that they could take off and slip it off of that too. So it's preventative measures, just like putting the bike on the back with a lock. They cut locks too. So it all can be done. Not hate to mention, but same thing with our box in the back. There's like 10 different key codes. They can all operate the same thing. I put a lock onto it. So it's preventative. Keeping the water out, though, I will say this, and it's important. I've noticed a difference. I've seen a lot of people getting a lot of sweat on the front windows because you talk about the moisture and stuff like that and keeping the moisture out. I'll put my board, my boots, and my socks and stuff like that. I turn my passenger seat around. I put it in the front there. And I also close my shade for the van wife stuff. So I keep that colder stuff up there and wet stuff and let it kind of, you don't want that humid on the front window, but I also don't put, one time I did and noticed I got more condensation by putting some over the front window, and it's not a stealth. but it creates more condensation, and then you're getting that frozen window by putting something over that. When I don't put stuff on the window, I don't get the condensation on the window. I do have it on my side windows and my back window, and I'm noticing that condensation's freezing and dropping down the windows. So I noticed my back door was frozen actually from the condensation dripping down and freezing not only the window, but literally inside the door. Like my door handle was frozen on the inside. I'd beat it and listen to the ice crack inside. We were definitely, I mean, it called for a negative 45 one night. Felt like, and that's what your van feels like. But to keep that moisture out of the front and not having 5 people are breathing heavy hot heat also keeps the humidity off there. 'Cause that's a big thing I think it happens in the wintertime that you have to prepare for, is a condensation that builds up and then frosts the windows, creates bigger problems. You don't want to leak into that computer module
The
that
ECU.
Mercedes sells a, I call it a condom for the ECU, and they, I don't charge too much for it to put it inside of a bag that they should have done from the factory. But anyways, that's what I'm trying to avoid too by it dripping down that you're familiar with.
Mm-hmm. Kaden, what do you do in regards to keeping water out of the van when you get off the slopes?
So I'll just kind of turn the camera this way, but Todd's got his seat turned around facing the back of the van. But this is the van door. I'll leave my skis kind of right here if it's a super cold day, and I'll let them drip down to the bottom step before you get in. Right now my boots are down there, so we make sure we don't get water in by leaving them on the first step. It also helps the van not get too dirty. If it is, well, my van's not like this, but Todd has a towel right here, so everyone kind of like dusts their feet off, whatever, it takes up the moisture. I try to keep it on the first step. Some water makes it in, but then I just throw some paper towels down, and it's kind of like a quick little mop job. Just kind of shuffle around. If my socks are wet from just the moisture that's on the ground or water spots, I'll just put my socks right at the furnace, the air vent. I'll put my ski boots there too. I do not like cold boots. I am not a happy camper if my toes are cold. So those toes stay toasty by leaving the boots down there. I'll even flip my boots around, so I'll get the toes done first, then I'll flip them around so that the heat just pumps into, like where you slip your feet in, and then I'll strap in and walk off. Wet stuff. Let's see. I also have, we're not in my rig, but the sliding door has 3 screws that are up there, and I have hooks. I just took out those screws. It's 3 hooks that just flip down, take the same screw so that you're not drilling into your panel. You're using existing holes. And if I have gloves or buffs, hats, whatnot, if they get wet, there's one perfect, at least for my sink, because I have one of the original vans where the sink is a rectangle. It just fits perfectly to just drip right into my sink. I've had wet bathing suits. I mean, we go ski, hit hot tubs, hot springs right after. Have that wetsuit, drips into the sink. It's perfect. For those of you who don't have that rectangle sink, just hang it in your shower, and then it'll drip dry. If it's dry enough where it's not dripping, I've hung it on the little knob handles of the drawers that pull out. And I've had bras, panties, just little light things that can hook onto the little knobs, and I'll angle the vent so that it's blowing hot air that way. But I also will put my Van Made Gear window coverings on the windows, and I'll also put the roll-up screens down just to give it that extra insulation. Todd and I have these Van Wife curtains, but as a contingency plan, I think it's very important for every owner to have these. You never know what weather conditions you're going to be in. Yes, we're snowmads, but you can be anywhere, and you can get caught in bad weather. So I keep a 0-degree bag with me. I will use, if it's a super cold day, which it came in clutch for that, those negative temps, I just put the Van Wife shades down, but I also took the sleeping bag, the 0-degree, and added that So it's blocking off that front cab. All that cold air is not getting to me, on top of, the window shades and the roll-off. My number one favorite hack is my heating blanket. I am so toasty. Todd was like, that's not going to work. How many watts is that? Guess who uses a heating blanket all the
That
time
thing's
now?
only 40 watts. It's the easiest thing. It's okay. Admittedly true. When my heater went out, the pump went out, I had to go to an electric blanket, and then I got a 1,500 watt heater, which somebody else had to borrow because hers went out. That girl. So the 40 watt
issues, yeah.
electric blanket is a true phenomenal. And the real trigger to it is putting it on top of your sheet and then put a blanket over top of it so it pushes the heat down. And I put it on high before I jump into bed, 2 minutes, and it's smoking hot, warm, instead of a cold gel bed, because I did the Canyons Adventure Vans, which is that different Tempur-Pedic stuff that gets cold, like my Tempur-Pedic pillows that are cold because gel stays colder. But I found it to be that's helpful in the cold times.
And it's got 3 settings, which is super nice.
Okay,
high,
well,
medium, low.
how about you send me a link to that so I can put it in the show notes so people know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Also, so Tara, what about you? What do you do to control water getting all over the van?
I mean, I think Todd and Kaden covered most of the bases. I got, I put my boots up front usually, or in the little, stairwell next to the slider door. I've got hooks above the slider door that hang beanies, gloves, jackets, whatever up there. First thing I'll usually do when I come in, I'll take my gloves off and I throw them right down on the floor next to the heat vent. And within 10 minutes, those suckers are piping hot and dry, because that dries them off real quick. And then snowboard is usually outside or on top of the van, and keep little towels around to mop up any little puddles that get tracked in. But for the most part, try to get most of the moisture off before you get in the van.
Okay, good advice.
Which is why I was trying to ask for your step, young wall, remember? Because I told you I had dented the side step because I was kicking my ski boot on that little side railing, and I was like, oh man, I put a dent into it. So another trick is to tap your boots sideways, side by side like that, instead of hitting them and banging them on your step, because it could dent.
So I'm curious. So what I'm really actually curious and kind of interested about is the fact that nobody has ever, in regards to the question of what's the hardest thing about being a snow bunny or whatever, none of you guys have said driving, which I find very interesting in regards to
we did.
Well, I mean,
remember when I was the ice condition, the black ice.
That was in regards to having slow mode, right? So, but just generally speaking, I mean, Toby, this is your second winter out here, and you haven't really mentioned anything about driving. So you've had 0 issues about driving and going up the mountain.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, because it's such a heavy vehicle, because there's, mud and snow tires on it, we've, and I mean, honestly, most of the time I'm not even engaging all-wheel drive unless there's a significant amount of snow actually on the ground. And there's been very little issues. I mentioned the one driving up to Big Sky, someone rear-ended us because they didn't have proper tires, and we were taking a right into a gas station. They just clipped me on the back, and honestly, it was the tiniest of dents on the vehicle. It was really nothing major, but they drive really pretty well within precipitation. There'll be the times that you're going up a giant a mountain pass where you're not maintaining 70 miles an hour, certainly. But it's really they drive very well. I've never had significant issues.
What about you, Tara? I know that you said that you are familiar with Breckenridge type snow. So I guess compared to an SUV or a truck, how does the van compare, and what are the difference and the nuances that people should be aware of?
I mean, yeah, it's a little bigger. It's a little heavier than my SUV. But I mean, I guess I probably do drive it a little slower than I did my SUV. I mean, because that thing could just fly through the snow and handle like a champ. This one, obviously, yeah, you just have to be, you got to be more cautious, and you got to kind of slowly test. You know, Todd says he always likes to test his limits. You got to test your limits and figure out what those are, but like, you got to do it in like smart places. Like I pulled in today at this resort, I pulled in at like 3:30. A lot of people are, you know, leaving or gone, and it's like a wide open parking lot with like, you know, they probably got 6 inches of snow out there, which isn't much. Actually, it might have been more, maybe like a foot. It's the top of my boot. But you know, go around an empty parking lot, do some, you know, gun it on
Do
the
some
gas a
donuts.
little bit more. Do some donuts. I didn't do any donuts, but I should do that. That's a good idea.
Get on some black ice and
Yeah,
practice with your rig. That's
yeah. See,
I think that is something I wish I would have done prior.
yeah, yeah. I haven't
Okay.
really. I don't think I've experienced black ice in the van. Well, I myself experienced black ice stepping out of my van the other day at Sun Valley. Totally slipped and ate all kinds of.
That sounds
I don't
awful.
know if I can. Yeah, like it was just like apparently I parked my van onto. It was like a sheet of black ice coated with like a quarter of an inch of snow. So like I didn't know that there was black ice underneath until I like stepped out, and then I was like, oh my gosh, I couldn't even close the slider door without like, you know, slipping and sliding and doing like.
And you had no issues driving in that?
No, I mean, well, because I was pulling into a parking spot, so I was only going, you know, 5 miles an hour
Oh, okay.
over that spot. If I hit that going, you know, 50, that might have been a different story. But
Gotcha.
and a little coating of, even if it's just a little thin layer of snow on top of black ice, it makes all the difference. Like it gives you that little added bit of traction. But usually, you know, if you hit a little icy spot, like I had experience driving in the SUV. You don't slam on your brakes. You don't, you know, do anything. You don't swerve, you know, and you just kind of let off. You kind of let the van do its thing, you know, let it kind of go where it wants to go, and then slowly, you know, correct it if you can.
Do you use the little shift paddle things at all? Does that help you?
You know, I haven't yet. I haven't needed to. I haven't really gone down like a steep mountain pass that's covered in snow yet. Maybe when I leave here, I might. Like I said, a lot of the places I've been driving so far have been dry. So until I get like really, really close to the resort. Like it was raining my whole drive up here until I was about 2 miles from the resort, and then it turned to snow. So
interesting. Well, it looks like we lost Todd and Kaden. I don't know if they're going to pop back in, but I really only have one other question, and that is for the people that are waiting to get their storytellers that want to chase powder, what's your number one tip for them? We'll start off with Toby.
You know, I'll say a couple, like the most important mod, like the day one thing you should do is get that van liner shelf, because it just adds so much more space. Like when you're going ski gear, it's just bigger, bulkier. Having somewhere to throw bags and equipment is just really, really nice to have. And then, you know, besides that, get out. It's what's so incredible is I've still never parked a single day at a ski mountain where someone doesn't come up and like ask about the van. Oh, who made this? Did you design it? Where are these from? Do you like it? Asking about the power, just asking about everything. And so it really, it's a more social way to ski. Like it's really, we get nothing but compliments every single day on the mountain. And so yeah, I would just say get out and use it. Don't be afraid. And the other thing, you know, a lot of people, there's constantly like, oh, you know, I'm normally in 40 or 50-degree temps. I'm going to go to 20 degrees this weekend. Do I need to winterize? And you know, I don't think anyone's winterized here, right? And, I mean, there are ways, and you can certainly fight it when Todd's at -30. But there are ways with additional, you know, hanging blankets and keeping temp up and opening up your water cabinets. There's ways to enjoy the cold weather without worrying about freezing your lines. And so I like people are very concerned about that. You see that question pop up in the Facebook group, all the time. Like come November, both years we've been in part of that group. That's like number one question that pops up. And so if you're really concerned about it, I get it, but I think you can enjoy the rig without having to worry about winterizing.
Oh, that's great advice. Thank you. Tara, so what is your number one advice for those that are waiting for their storyteller van that are going to hit the slopes next winter?
Gosh. I would say kind of along the lines of Toby, like just go do it. Like I know like a lot of times people kind of get in this like analysis paralysis. Like they want to, even before they get their van, they're asking 50 million questions of what if this scenario happens? What if this scenario happens? How do I, prepare for this situation? Or what are all the things that I need to buy before I get my van? And it's like, just get your van, just drive somewhere, and you learn as you go. Like there's no real way to prepare for any real life scenario that you're going to face except just by doing it. And I mean, I haven't really had any crazy experiences yet, so maybe I'm not one to talk, but and I suck at planning and I suck at preparing, and maybe that's why I say just do it. Because it's, I don't know, I've met a lot of people that are afraid to do things in their life, van or not, just because they're unsure about, they don't know what they don't know, kind of thing. Like they don't want to do something because they don't know what's going to happen, if that makes sense.
No.
Like they're unsure of the
totally
unknown, so they're afraid to take the first step. So I say just go do it and go have fun and learn as you go. Like I learned like my whole like little snowboard jerry rig mounting scenario. Like I mounted it under the bed and I was like, sweet, this is gonna be cool. And then I was like, wait, no, that doesn't really work in real life scenarios. So then I moved it to the front passenger seat, and then that worked, and that could have worked for the rest of the season. But then I was like, you know what? I want it kind of out of the way more. So I got a roof rack. So you just kind of like progress as you go.
No, I totally get it. That's how van life goes, and I think anything goes. So yeah. Todd and Kaden, you guys cut out for a second, but I asked the question of what is your number one tip for those guys that are waiting for the storytellers that are going to hit the slopes next season?
I would say purchase all of your contingencies prior, because in case something fails, you do not want to be without heat. So, like Todd was saying, he's got his little like buddy heater. I got mine from Walmart, which actually matches the van great. But yeah, order like that shelf. It provides so much more storage. Our ski gear is bulky. You need lots of layers. So I have 3 duffel bags on my RB component shelf. So at any given time, if I needed to roll out of a city, park my van somewhere, I could just pull out a duffel bag and boom, be gone. I also carry a ski bag as well. This is the real name of the company. It's called Douchebag. DB is on the bag. But it fits your skis, your snowboard, and it makes it so that you can travel. So I always carry that in the back of the rig in case someone is like, hey, meet me on this mountain. I'll just take off. So things like that.
What about you, Todd?
I always said no matter whether it's a weekender or a full-timer, and I think that's a big difference. If we're full-time-ish, like I'm a full-time traveler, I don't always like I live in my van full-time. No, I got a home. I think it's easier for us to all say, because all of us are always on the road and we make accommodations. If someone's telling me like, hey, I'm going to go run for the weekend and I'm going to go run out to go ski one weekend for the first time, they don't know until they find out. And I think they can find it in their driveway for a week. Camp in your driveway. I don't care if it's going, hey, I'm into biking or whatever. I think it's important in our aspect of it. Because if they're coming from Florida and say, I'm going skiing and it's going to be cold, find out in your driveway how hot, what side of the vehicle is going to get hot. I found out with using one of those digital laser things that you
can find out temperatures, find out your hot sides, your weak sides, each side of your vehicle where it's getting hot or cold. It's going to do the same thing in cold. Difference is you're getting sun on one side that's going to heat it up. Well, maybe that's the wind side that you're catching the snow from.
Yeah, that's super clever, actually. Yeah, that's really good. So I lied. I actually have one more question. So, so what is the other than the Facebook group? What is the best resource as far as chasing powders, knowing where to park? How the each resort kind of works. Things of that nature. Just general knowledge. Like, what is the best resource out there to chase snow? We'll start with you, Toby.
Yeah, so there's a Facebook group for Icon and Epic van dwellers, I think is what it's called. And so there's just a ton of searching you can do, like, just drop in any resort that you're going to, and there's going to be a bunch of information you can search that have already been. If there's not the information, you can ask the question. But yeah, that's something that when we're going to new places, I'm constantly looking at that group.
Okay, cool. Can you send me the link to that so I can put it in the show notes?
Yeah, sure.
Cool. Tara, what about you?
I that group that Toby mentioned is pretty much one of my go-tos for any new place that I go to. If usually first I'll look at the resort's website to see if they allow overnight parking, or like I'll just Google, whatever resort I'm going to, like Sun Valley overnight parking, or like where I'm at right now, like Brundage overnight parking, and that'll give me a quick, yes or no, do they allow it? And then if it's a no, then I'll usually go to that Facebook group and see where people have mentioned, that like where to park and whatnot. And then after that, probably iOverlander, try to find those spots.
Okay,
I
that's
use a lot.
good. Todd and Kaden, what is the best resource other than the Facebook group to chase powder? What do you guys use?
Seeker is one where I've met a few friends off of the Facebook forums before. I've been in my van for a few snow seasons as well, and when I first started, I was learning how to ski. I was a boarder first, and I just wanted to find people who were snowmads. So yeah, the Facebook forum definitely helped me with the Icon and Epic, and also just showing up in the parking lot. And because we're camping there, your rigs are like sometimes open. Other times I'll have like my table out, and we're just kind of chilling there. So people just walk up to you, or I'll just make comments about their gear, and you just meet people, and they just talking to people will give you tips and tricks, and also the ski app. It'll tell you the weather conditions of that resort, and you can just chase the storm and get fresh powder.
Okay. What, Todd? What about you?
Toby mentioned stuff that Facebook group is pretty good. It's long and drawn out. There's hard to find them. So same thing with our storyteller group. There is a search bar at the top. Hit that and put in the resort you're going to. In our case, that's helpful instead of asking the same question. And the same thing like, hey, my heater broke on my storyteller. Using that search function, I don't think everybody understands. There is a search function. Once you get into that group, to search for that. And you'll find it sometimes if you can get it by date, the most recent, because it'll change. Same thing with Iverlander. They'll have something from 2 years ago. The most hated thing I find in Iverlander, I watched the comments when they commented, like, oh, yeah, there's this great no fee next to the campsite we was driving through last night, because there's nothing in Jackson Hole. And it was next to the campsite. There's a free parking space. They posted it in July. When I went to go turn down that road, it was about an 8-foot tall snowbank. So that didn't work out so good. It's a big thing I'll find. There's a lot of stuff around resorts that are completely like, there's not even a road anymore. So I'd love to say that Seeker's going to be the way, and I hope it develops better with the recent purchase and acquisition there, stuff like that. But that has some ways to go. I haven't found it to be the best way to go. Irelanders help. The next thing is pull into town in daylight. I'm always a big advocate of finding your campsites before it's dark. I make a bad habit when I go at dark, but before dark, and that might mean that you go to a restaurant or to the local shopping plaza, and you might find other vans there. Hey, where are you guys camping? Oh, you've been here for a week? Okay, cool. That helps for resort parking. You're going to get all the lowdown. Hell, I even found the security guard that said, yeah, I'm going to have to ticket you and have you towed if you park here, but here's a place to go. I was in a van for 2 years myself. Da-da-da-da. Asking, they love your vehicle, and they're going to be willing to help you out. My buddy and his, little camper that's a wood thing. People love it, and my bumper costs more than his whole vehicle. It's not the size of the big camper that you might have. You can just be anything. You don't have to look like a hobo or driving a Lamborghini like we might be considered. Everybody's kind of digging the whole camping idea and living that life.
Awesome. Those are all great tips. Well, I appreciate your guys' time. I like to wrap up every episode by asking the same question. Toby knows what I'm talking about. So I'll go ahead and start with Toby, but I know that you answered this last time, but has anything changed in regards to what does it mean to you to be part of the STO Nation community?
No, I love it. I learned so much from other van owners, and whether it's inspiration for cool places to go or new mods or just, people to hang out with, like it's been really cool to be part of it.
Awesome. What about you, Tara? What does it mean for you to be part of the STO Nation community?
Gosh, I would say, it's kind of like a cool little family, to be honest. Everywhere that I've been, like meeting you and all the guys in Baja, and then Todd and Kaden, met Todd in Tahoe, Kaden in Mammoth, and it seems like within, minutes, pretty much, of when you meet each other, it's like you've known each other almost kind of like your whole lives. It's like you're immediately just like brought in, brought into the fold, I guess. And and it's just, you don't really have like that awkward, stranger, new friend kind of get to know you. You're just like, hey, like, let's shoot the shit. And, just everybody's very welcoming, very helpful. And, in the Facebook group, everybody shares all their great tips and lessons that they've learned. So it's just a big, welcoming community, I guess.
Yeah, that's a great way to explain it. What about you, Todd and Kaden?
I would say that I feel like, and I think it's because I've been around for a while versus someone just picking up their van now. You get grandfathered into this family with knowledge. People who have been through, I guess, like hardships or things that they've had to fix, and they're so resourceful. And maybe it could be my personality. I have no shame in my game. I live in my van 24/7. If something breaks, it doesn't matter what time it is. That break does not care about time. That van part, So I have FaceTimed, called, text, emailed so many of you guys at random times of the night, day. It doesn't even matter. I just don't.
Like when she tried to tow a semi out of the ditch. She called me for that.
Yeah, I was like, Todd, this guy, he's in a ditch.
He's a semi.
Walk me through it, because I had never used my winch before. I had like the, like the basics on how to use it, but I had never actually put it into action. And I was like, Todd, walk me through this. So I'm FaceTiming him in the middle of the night trying to do it. But yeah, I have that access, and so does everyone else in the Facebook forum. They can literally just send me a message, and if I can help them, I absolutely will. And I think that new owners coming in I think that they would feel the same way, just wanting to pay it forward and helping somebody else. So yeah. Oh, also, we are full timers. We still have houses, in our different cities. But it's kind of cool because every city I go to, I feel like I get a house. I get extra showers in these different cities. They're like, Kaden, come on by, whatever. You need our driveway, you need parking space, you need a shower, have at it. And so I pretty much have a place in, I don't know, a lot of the places I want to go. So that's a really cool bonus.
All right. Yeah, most definitely. Todd, what does it mean for you to be part of this STO Nation community?
In the community sense, on the Facebook side, I think it's important that you don't see a bunch of people complaining as much as you might find others. group pages and stuff like that. It's more of like, how can we help? And here's a problem. Here's a resolution I recommend. That's always been a community thing that I've always found before getting into it. And just as simple as like when we pull up to a parking lot and we see another storyteller, we're going to seek out that person. We went through a ski shop and, you know, I'm like, hey, just go beast, because it was another beast. Just walk in and go, who's got the beast? And you want to meet that person, right? So you want to, you know, click with them. Tara, I think it was, you know, I met her because I saw she was in the same place I was going, connected, we're over here, meet up. It's a community that you reach out and you feel like you're automatically family. But it's also when we have problems or bumps in the road, we can find a resolution for. We're not just venting. Like, it's a thing that's going to happen. So I enjoy that part of it, to be able to find other people tips and tricks and stuff like that.
That's awesome. Well, those are all great answers, and I think that's like a great way to end the podcast. So I just want to thank you guys for your time. I know we're kind of all in different time zones, and we all have different work schedules, so I do appreciate the time. And yeah, so I'm not a snow bunny, but who knows? Maybe I'll see you out there next season. So please be safe. And STO Nation is a production of Park Media. The executive producer is Younghwa Kim. The audio engineer is
Stephen Grasso.
The marketing director is
Guillaume Golson.
The original music and artist is done by
Jason Walsmith.
The sound designer is
Lorenzo Interiano.
And the webmaster is
Peng Shi.
Without any of these people, this podcast couldn't happen, so a big, huge thank you. And a big, huge thank you to you, the listener. If you like this episode, please don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a 5-star review. This is Younghwa with STO Nation, and I can't wait to share the road with you.